Well, I don't know if I'd be focusing on that. I mean, the guy is still 20 years old, so, you know, if you're being cautious, and Noel didn't play for how long was that before training camp and then he's playing a game? I mean, it had to be close to 18 months, right?
I mean, I think you tear your ACL, you a year, okay, I get you, you're out a year. 16 months, though. He hasn't played since February of what, 14? That's a long time.
Yeah, but I'm saying Noel was in the same boat this time last year. He hadn't played since February of the year before.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, you know, and then he came out and he had a great year. Now, you're correlating the fact that this report came out that could be a problem or may not be a problem. But his amount of time away from playing a game is absolutely equivalent to where Nerlens was this time last year.
Well, and Nerlens did play in the Summer League last year, and I mean, he was by this time.
And I do not think Embiid will play in that.
So do you find it a little weird that they said, what was this, back in April? Yeah, he's going to play in the Summer League. His CT scans, he was ahead of schedule. And here we are a month and a half later, and there's less healing, and now he's not going to play. What could have changed, and do you find that to be a little odd?
Well, they haven't said he is not going to play.
True.
That's just, you know, we're less than 2 weeks out from the draft. Summer League is the following week. You come out with this, you know, bombshell, and I would say it just seems like he won't play in the Summer League. So I would agree with you. They haven't said that, but it looks like that. I do find it interesting that, you know, you have progress that was, as you stated, more than we could have hoped for. That was in March. And now all of a sudden we're being cautious because the healing isn't where we thought it would be. And two things. One, it could be because he has increased his activity, and now it's not responding accordingly, though he did not complain of anything being wrong. So it's just literally being revealed in a picture, a CT scan or whatever you want to call it. And, you know, what are you seeing that says it's not, you know, it's not where we want it to be? I'm not sure. But I've said to a number of people, I do understand caution when you put a screw or a rod. Drew Holiday had one put in his lower leg last year. Kevin Durant had problems with his. So, you know, but in both those cases, those guys complained of pain associated with the surgery they had. That as long as the people talking to me say that was not the case with Joel. So, yes, do I find it curious? Of course.
Yeah, now the timing of this is a little curious as well, Dee. It's the NBA draft is 12 days away. How do you read into the timing? I mean, Saturday night I'm sitting at home. I get an email at 9:48 from the Sixers. I find that to be a curious time as well. And
or the fact that you got one curious as well. Meaning they don't like to put a lot out there.
You're absolutely right. And I'm thinking, wow, I got an email from the Sixers at 9:48 on Saturday night. What could this be? Whoa, this is interesting. And then the draft being 12 days away. The timing of this is curious on a couple of fronts, in my opinion. Is it for you?
Oh, sure. I mean, the obvious curious that, you know, if you're a skeptic, says we want to be able to take whoever we deem to be the best player available without anybody scrutinizing us. And that allows you to take a big if you think that's the best player on the board at that point, even though you have a Saric, a Nerlens, and an Embiid. But if you have an Embiid that you're not so sure about, now you take a big and, you know, we had to do it because we just don't know.
Yeah, and, you know, it's interesting because it's like justifying the fact that, you know, and that doesn't sound like Sam Hinkie, though, that he has to justify to anybody who he takes, right?
Not to the fan base per se, but maybe just to, I mean, we look at it as only justifying to the fan base, but, you know, you're playing with 29 other people who are playing a game with you. I mean, I'm not a poker player. I'm not a gambler per se, and I'm not saying this is a gambling game. But when you have information that changes people's perception of what they're going to do or what you might do. You know, I mean, we all know it is a game, and he is definitely one who never shows his hand.
Yeah, and I want to get your thoughts on a couple of things. And obviously, you know, this news comes out 12 days. Do you, in fact, think that this is them saying that we're going to have to – because best player available has kind of been the thing for them, so you would think that this wouldn't have a lot to do with their draft philosophy anyway.
It wouldn't, but at some point, now you're 3 years in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so always take best player available. But when are you going to fill needs that will make you a more competitive team? 19 wins and 18 wins, okay, people take that for those first 2 years. But if you come back in a third year and you did not fill an incredible need, which is the point guard position, after you traded a guy you took in the lottery, and you just take another big, I mean, that's a little bit tougher of a sell, in my opinion. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the world, you know, the Sixer fans say that that's fine with me. Best available is fine with me. But I think in the 5-year plan, you're getting close to, if you don't start fielding a team,
yep,
how do you keep people interested?
I agree with that. It went from together we build to this starts now. I know that's just a marketing campaign, but someone's got to come together and say, I approve of that. Does that mean the pressure starts now? Well, I think the pressure was relieved a little bit if people think that Embiid is not ready to go. And if he's not ready to go, a lot of people have speculated that he could possibly miss the whole year, and this can set them back. How would this reflect on Hinkie? Well, I would say that if he has surgery, then he won't play the year. That we know. But there is no that it's been discussed, absolutely. But there has been nothing that says he is or isn't going to have it. And, you know, there's plenty of reports, whether it's Bill Self's guy saying one way, you know, other people saying, oh, my God, we're hearing Embiid's going to miss the year. You know, it's a lot of chatter without a lot of, you know, solid, the doctor said information. You know, we're exploring all options. But if you ask me if he doesn't play next year, how far does it set him back? I mean, I say tack on 2 years, and if he can never be the player you thought you drafted, then you have a real big problem. Yeah, Dei Lynam, CSN Philly Sixers insider with us here, Sports Bash 97.3. I agree. I mean, does that make taking him too big of a risk? Was it a mistake then, looking back to that? Not for me right now, because I'm not sure that this isn't like going to be much to do about nothing. Mm-hmm. No, I agree. I endorse them taking him, and I also agree. Was there another guy that was going to move your franchise any further along than him? I don't think if you take Aaron Gordon there, you're in any better spot. Oh, my God, no. No. Come on. That, you know, obviously people get to look back at Bynum or a Jeff Rulin and say this keeps happening, but, you know, they're all independently different choices that were made at different times for the franchise. Mm-hmm. In that particular moment, at picking at number 3, Wiggins and Parker are off the board. To me, Embiid was a no-brainer. Let me get this clear for the listeners out there. Joel Embiid has not said, I feel pain or I am injured. This is just a routine scan, and they looked at it and said, ooh, this doesn't look right. But he is not complaining of any pain, correct? Well, to the best that we know, meaning I'm hearing it through him, he never gets to speak, which is, you know, I mean, I know that sounds terrible unless he's on social media and showing you pictures of Riley Curry or something. And he doesn't have to speak. Marshawn Lynch. He doesn't have to speak either, because injured players are not required to talk, correct? Yes, that's right. Exactly. Yeah. And it can even go a step further. Not only are you not required, you may be asked to not. I mean, as an organization, they don't have to let him speak to anybody. Well, I do know this. I mean, Coach Brown was scheduled to be on here yesterday, and they texted me and said he will not come on today. We're going to have to reschedule. I don't know if that's telling. I'm sure they just didn't want to talk about this, or they don't have enough information for him to talk about it. Wait, who was going to be on? Brett Brown. Oh, Brett Brown. Okay. Yeah, I would say it's a topic that they would probably like more information. Correct. Before they're willing to go forward. And
I'm going to say if you try to reschedule between now and June 25th, you're probably going to have a hard time.
I would agree with that. They told me last week, they told me Monday 2:10. I said, all right, Monday 2:10. And, of course, 9:30 in the morning, he was unavailable. So, for whatever reason, you're right. I asked for when.
I mean, and we can't, well, look, we're just people looking at the situation and trying to connect dots. We're not, accusing anybody of anything.
Nope.
We're not saying one is because of the other. It's just, as logical people, you have to try to figure out stuff when people aren't talking.
Yeah, and this, we're talking with Dei Lynam, CSNPhilly.com, 76ers insider, Joel Embiid. It's a huge, huge situation for this team. Could it just be them being so overly cautious that, hey, it hasn't gotten to a point where we thought it would be because the last one was so advanced and it's all for naught? We're just making a big deal out of nothing here.
I mean, it definitely could be that. Because I'll go back to the guy dunked the ball, and they put him in a booth. A couple days later, he got that great report. So, cautious is definitely how they operate, and there's nothing wrong with being cautious. It's just the lack of detail behind the cautiousness. And they are not required to tell you any more than what they tell you.
That's right.
But, it leaves the rest who do cover the team or fans to have to speculate. And, where there's speculation, there is some truth and some not truth.
Yeah, and I just want to, Dee, you've been around the team for so long. You've been around basketball for so long. In the times that you got to see him, and I know Robert Covington, I think, spoke to you about him and talked about how tremendous he was and ferocious. Were you getting the sense that this guy was everything people were hoping for?
I won't even use past tense. I think he still can be that. I think that if he's in training camp in September, we're going to say, wow, they gave us a storyline when we would have had nothing in the middle of June, and all is fine, and he's in camp, and he's in good shape. Now, that'll be the key. I thought one of the great things with him, by the end of the year, I thought his body looked like an NBA body. If he is left to his own doing this summer and he can't work out like he had been working out, I mean, he's a bigger boy, and he does tend to, be able to put on some pounds. But they had worked so hard to get him to look the way he was looking, and that would be the only unfortunate thing I would think. And this is me. I'm going under the assumption he's not having surgery because they haven't said he's having surgery. So why should I assume he is?
Right. Dei Lynam, everybody. Dee, third pick next Thursday. Who do you like?
Wow, yeah. Who is it?
Who do you like?
Who do I like, or who do I think they'll pick?
Well, I guess it's two different answers, but who's
they are two different answers
sure.
for me.
Yeah, for a lot of people.
For me, I actually am a D'Angelo Russell fan. I think he can be, I know everybody tends to shy away from kind of proven talent and, maybe his upside isn't as great as Porzingis. I disagree with that. I like the guy's voice. I like his demeanor. It's a need on this team, and it's a point guard league. So that's the way I feel about that.
So that's who you like. Who do you envision?
I envision, there is so much talk about Kristaps that I would say if he were there, I totally think there's enough argument for them to say he was definitely the best player on the board. But I look at him and I say he's, that's a project.
Interesting. All right, Dei Lynam.
He's 19. He's 19 years old. And I know there have been great stories from Europe here, and there have been ones that they just don't mean much to me. So, whether we go Gallinari or the guy in Detroit who was the second overall pick never became anything.
Darko.
And then there are the Gasol brothers who are studs.
Yeah.
Or Dirk.
Hey, there's only one. I talked about this yesterday, Dee. There's only been one Dirk, and everybody keeps trying to find another one. Maybe there just is only one Dirk.
Yeah, sure. Just like we say, there was one Michael Jordan, and all these years later, there's one LeBron James.
That's right. Well, it should be interesting. By the way, the 76ers draft June 25th, our draft party, and, of course, your chance to win Sixers season tickets is coming up in about 5 minutes. Dee, always a pleasure.
Anytime.